Josh, let's dive into this Tennessee basketball team. Your thoughts on the game last night and the past 10 days or so, I guess 8 days or so. This basketball team seems to be losing its rudder a bit.
Well, at least they're not peaking at the wrong time. You could say that, unless they peaked against Texas and they don't get it back. That would be the fear. But since that game, when Tennessee looked terrific against one of the better teams in the country, Tennessee hasn't looked anything like that in the last 3 games. And we can point to shooting. We went into the week, though, saying, okay, what's going on with Julian Phillips? What's happening with Tyreek Key? And remove the play late by Julian Phillips. He provided something for Tennessee. Tyreek Key was terrific. He did more than you would ask for Tennessee shooting the basketball, but they didn't have enough around those guys. And Tobe Awaka coming off the bench was a positive. Made a mistake late, fouling a three-point shooter. So what is going on? I don't know. The injury to Josiah Jordan-James, another injury, that is a concern coming out of this. But the guys that you look to step up, Olivier Nkamhoua, he had a terrific performance against Texas. He was awesome. Wrote about it on Off the Hook Sports, the website. I think what I wrote still stands, but we haven't seen that level of play. And if that's not going to happen, there's only so much offense you're going to get from a walk, and you might have mistakes that cancel it out. Jonas Adu has not been a big factor here recently for Tennessee, and I don't think they have a ton of confidence in Uros Plavsic. Didn't see him off the bench. So, coming out of the Texas game, one concern I had was how many guys can you count on a night-to-night basis? And if you're only getting 3 or 4 guys that step up, then you're going to be limited offensively in what you can do, and your defense is only going to take you so far. All that being said, I still have confidence in Zakai Ziegler being able to bounce back as long as he doesn't run out of legs the rest of the way. And Vescovi, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to hit clutch shots, miss the free throw, but he hit 2 threes late that really mattered for Tennessee. This team can still be fine. And teams that go to the Final Four or go to the Elite Eight or Sweet 16 run into these kinds of stretches every single year. It's not uncommon at all, but they have to get it figured out. And fans that are saying, I've seen this before. This is what's going to happen in March. I don't have a counter to that until Tennessee proves that statement wrong.
I could see that. I could see them turning things around. Please hit the like button. That helps us bring more viewers in, and the subscribe button if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate that. And but Josh, my issue with this team is they seem so easy to stop. They drop it down low, and then all of the defensive guard play is around the perimeter because I don't think that they're afraid of the post presence. It seems like, and you may be right, this may just be a dry spell and they're fine, but it seems like they've been figured out.
Well, I mentioned Olivier Nkamhoua. If he doesn't play at a high level offensively, then that's probably true. He's a guy that has a skill set that can go toward the basket or step out. He can hit long range shots. He can hit shots from the high post. He's a guy that is versatile enough to change what defenses try to do. And defensively, should be able to help Tennessee. Like the mistake that Awaka made, you'd like to think that Olivier would not have made that on the floor. But Olivier was on the bench, then came in and subbed out Awaka. Josiah is a guy that he's been too streaky, where they don't beat Auburn without the way that he played, but they would have beaten Vanderbilt if he shot the ball better. And we're not having this conversation, at least not to this level with that kind of concern. Again, now there's the injury issue. So are they easy to figure out? Probably at times. That's why I think we've talked about Key shooting ability and Julian Phillips, because he does add the dynamic. He made a play where he beat his defender with ease, drove to the basket, and had a reverse layup that looked like the elite level talent that he was rated as coming in. But that has to happen more consistently. And is that on Julian? Is that on Tennessee's coaching staff? Is the coaching staff's job to figure out how to get Julian Phillips more involved and get him more opportunities? And even late, the mistake that he made, I still don't understand exactly what was said in the timeout. Yes, he should know to just dunk the basketball and go up 4, but obviously he did not. So why not? That to me comes back to the sideline.
Josh, Jimmy Hyams had a piece for us about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, talking about Tennessee's Final Four potential. And he mentioned it was kind of an aside, but I think it's a bigger deal than we even realized at the time, that there's chatter that Rick Barnes is so stresses toughness so much and grinds his team that they start to get worn down as the season goes on, which can prove costly. I remember when he was at Texas, he had a team that started, what was it, like 17-0 and got to number 1. And then they finished 7-10 the year. I think that was 2009, 2010 Texas. I'm getting a lot of vibes of that Texas team that he had. You know, these teams that start really hot through December and January, get to the top 5, and just, it's not new for Rick Barnes teams to just slip and slide down the stretch of the year. And
yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe so. It's just, man, we're snapping our fingers for it to happen, to look so good and dominate the way the Vols did against Texas, and then 3 or 4 days later go to Gainesville and play so poorly. Like, why did it happen that quickly? I don't know. And for Tennessee to be the best defense in the country, and they haven't looked like it the last week and a half. And yeah, it's easy to have one game where you slip up. I mean, that's going to happen. That's guaranteed. But for now it to become some kind of stretch where, okay, didn't play that well against Florida, lost the game, should come back at home and look really good against Auburn. Didn't. Was kind of fortunate to get out of there with the win. And then a Vanderbilt team that you've already played and tested you in Knoxville, we don't see Tennessee respond against Vanderbilt. So now it's a week and a half with a bigger stretch coming up. We are going to find something out about this team because you have Missouri coming to town, and Missouri can score. And it's not a great team, but it's a quality team in the league. Then you play Alabama, which is the best team in the league, maybe the best team in the country. And then you go to Lexington to take on a team that's not very good, but was better than you several weeks ago. So we'll find out more here in a week and a half to see how this team responds. And again, unfortunately, it might be a response that's needed without just Jordan James, but they have played without him this season. The ability is still there. Well, one thing to the point of, do you run their legs out, which I wondered with Sakai. That's more position specific. They just don't have a lot of point guard help, but this has looked like a deeper team, right? When you look at the bench that includes Tyreek Key and Tobe Awaka, and who's come on. I mean, he was unexpected at the beginning of the season. Adu and Meshack and Plavsic. They have a bunch of guys that they have shown confidence in. I mean, we're talking probably about the deepest team that Rick Barnes has had at Tennessee, but it has not shown up enough for the concern to go away.
Let me ask you this. And portions of the program brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach England, your personal injury attorney in the Chattanooga area, can go toe-to-toe with the insurance companies, attorneys, and make sure you get your just rewards if you're involved in an accident. Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach's got your back. If I made you bet right now as far as how far this team goes in the tournament, and I'll give you an incomplete too, because you mentioned they could turn it around and hit a dry spell as they have. But I mean, right now, based off this team and its defensive prowess, which doesn't often turn out to be fruitful in the tournament, and their guard play, which is up and down, where do you think this team ends up?
Well, maybe I sound foolish here. I still like Tennessee's chances to go to the Sweet 16 because of the position they should be in. Tennessee has a good chance to be a 2 or a 3 seed, which gives you an advantage going in to where you need to win 2 games. It's a 14 tournament to get to the Sweet 16. And the first round matchup should be an easy one for Tennessee. Should is a funny word in the NCAA tournament, but you should get to the next round. And then can you be better than a team that's not as good as you? And we're last year against Michigan, and that's the obvious fear. But if they stay healthy enough, like that to me has been the bigger concern. I've already mentioned Sakai a couple times, but can he hold up? Vescovi's dealt with the shoulder injury this season, and I wonder how much that's affected him as he's shot the ball better and worse at times through conference plays, had to miss a little time this season. And then we have Josiah's injury again. Can they hold up? But if they hold up well enough, then they should be good enough in the first weekend to get to the Sweet 16. And then at that point, I'd be lying if I said I love their chances, but that applies to most teams. But if they don't get to the Sweet 16, and we assume they don't rally here to win the SEC regular season title, and if they don't win the SEC tournament, then this season is going to be viewed by just about everybody as a failure because the talent is in place and the experience coming back along with somebody like Phillips coming in and Awaka being a surprise. That's a newcomer that people didn't really talk about during the offseason. The personnel is in place. So if they hold up and are healthy enough, they absolutely should get to the Sweet 16. That's why I still say that. But if they don't, it'll be a big disappointment.
No, and I wonder if some people's minds, excuse me, if it might be a disappointment just making it to the Sweet 16, which it shouldn't, but I wonder aloud if that might
I think that would be disappointing in the moment, but if you take a step back and say, okay, look at the history of Tennessee basketball, look at how many teams have been a top 2 or 3 seed, and it's still so difficult to get beyond that point. That yes, if you're in the Sweet 16 and you're a 2 or a 3 seed, then you absolutely should, or a 4 seed, whatever. You should be disappointed losing that game and not being able to advance. Tennessee's been to one Elite Eight ever, so the disappointment of not making it happen again would be there. But the perspective of how difficult it is should override that, in my opinion.